Hello and welcome to Modern HTML and CSS from the beginning. In this video, I just want to talk a little bit about what you can expect from this course. So this is going to be a comprehensive course on HTML and CSS, and we're going to start from the absolute beginning, starting with HTML5 markup. We'll go through all the basics of CSS to the latest features like Flexbox, CSS grid, animation, variables, responsive design, and much more. Not only that, you'll also learn Sass in this course, which is a CSS precompiler that extends the syntax of CSS to include things like nesting, inheritance, functions, and more. This course is composed of both learning sections where we'll basically be working in a sandbox to look at certain features, and then we have about a half dozen projects ranging in size, and then some mini projects on top of that. So who is this course actually for? The short answer is everyone. Whether you're an absolute beginner looking to learn how to build websites, how websites work, or a seasoned developer that wants to get better at CSS, Sass, and UI creation in general without having to rely on frameworks like Bootstrap. So sections 1 through 4 are geared more towards beginners as we go over the basics of HTML and CSS. So if you're comfortable with things like HTML5 and CSS topics like font styles, basic alignment, margin and padding, things like that, then feel free to skip these sections and start using Flex, CSS grid, animation, and Sass. So here's a summary of some of the things that we'll be going over in this course. So we'll start with the basics of how websites work and how the internet works in general in terms of IP addresses, how exactly a website that's stored on a server somewhere else gets displayed in your browser. We'll look at setup and tools. We're using a text editor called VS Code, which is definitely the most popular editor in the web development world, and we'll be using tools such as Emmet. We'll install a couple different extensions as well, get a workflow going. We'll look at HTML5 in terms of just the core basics of tags and attributes. We'll look at all the basic tags. We'll also look at the semantic tags like header, footer, aside, things like that, and show you how to structure a proper HTML5 document. We'll be looking at CSS fundamentals like the box model, font styles, things like that. Responsive design, so media queries, making everything look good on mobile devices, including smartphones and tablets. Every single project we create is going to be responsive. Okay, we'll be looking at Flexbox, CSS grid, which are ways to align columns and rows. We'll be looking at animation with transitions and keyframes, CSS variables, transforms, pseudo selectors. We'll be building things like sticky menus, overlays. We'll be styling forms and landing pages. We'll even look at website deployment, so making your website live on the internet using a shared host. We'll also be looking at a platform called Netlify. And then finally, we'll look at Sass, which is a CSS precompiler to allow us to basically extend the functionality of CSS. And we'll create a portfolio project with that. All right, so as I said, this is going to be a mix of learning sections and projects. The learning lectures will include specific topics such as the box model, media queries, and many other things. And then we'll also have 6 good-sized projects along with some other mini projects. So the first website project we'll be building is this hotel website, which is before we even get into Flexbox and the grid and anything like that. We'll be using just basic CSS here, including floats, because I think it's important to learn the basics, even though for the most part you're going to be using Flex or the grid. Next project is this Edge Ledger website, which is a single page site for a financial company. It includes Flexbox, image overlay, sticky menu, things like that. We will be implementing a little bit of JavaScript for smooth scroll. We'll be doing this in a couple projects. However, JavaScript is not the focus of this course. I just want to make that clear. We will be using a little bit of it, but we're not going to really get into JavaScript. This course is more about UI and HTML, CSS, and Sass. So the next project is a news grid site where we use CSS grid. We use grid template columns, and I show you how to span rows and things like that. Next, we'll build a landing page that uses a hamburger menu. So you guys have probably seen this before. You click it and it opens up a menu. We'll have a big overlay that has the menu items. We'll also animate the hamburger menu itself. Then we have a CSS timeline project where we have different items on the timeline. We're going to add a little bit of JavaScript here to bring the items in from the side as we scroll down. And then the last project is a Sass project where we create a 4-page portfolio site with a home, about, a work page with some pretty in-depth CSS animations, transitions, and then a contact page. And we're going to deploy this to a platform called Netlify and make the contact page actually work with spam filtering. All right, so that's it. Hopefully you enjoy the course and learn a lot from it. So let's jump in and get started.